Today we're going to be working on the rear brakes of a 2001 Mazda B3000 or Ford Ranger. And these are rear drums, so I'm going to teach you how to change rear drums. And this drum change will go and work for most any car that has drums. So it's very helpful. So what you're going to need to change the rear drums are some new drum shoes. You're going to need a new drum itself. I might use rotor and drum interchangeably as we do this by mistake, but it's a drum. You know, some pliers, different types of pliers would be good to grab the springs. A nice long screwdriver, flathead, short flathead. I have a spring kit just in case if I need to change some springs. You'd want to change all the springs if you're going to change any on both sides. You want to do everything the same. So if you're changing this on one side, you're changing the exact same thing on the other side. I know I'm going to need this pin with the spring and the hat because that's missing on my application. Nice hammer to get the rotor off. And so let's begin. First step is to block off your wheels. Make sure your tires are blocked off because you're going to lift the rear tires, which most of the time has the emergency brake. And you have to let go of the emergency brake. So make sure your emergency brake is off. Block off your front tires. Make sure the car's jacked up. So here's the drum. And what we're going to do is get these off. And to get them off, we're going to hit the drum brakes with a hammer. And that'll loosen it up just like that. Shimmy that off. You can see in here, when you rub your finger down the edge, it's all grooved and messed up. You can feel these grooves. It's not smooth. There's a nice deep groove right here. That means these rotors are shot. So you need to get a new rotor. And now we have the whole brake assemblage here. Let's get an inside shot. See what we're looking at. Here's the piston that pushes the two pads or shoes out. So these shoes go that way and that way against the edge of this. That's how these brakes work. So first thing we're going to do is inspect everything. And we're going to take a picture. And this picture is going to be very important because these springs, as you can see, they're everywhere. There's a bunch. And you want to make sure everything's there. You have this adjustment in the back that works off the emergency brake. And I could see something already. Previous owner didn't put that back. Okay, so we're going to need one of these parts. So just take a picture of it and then print it out, and then you have something to work off of. So you want a picture from right here, and then you want a picture right there. So I got my picture of the top and the bottom. It's right here. So here's the top setup, and here's the bottom setup, and now everything is easy. Like there's no challenge to this brake project at all. Anybody could do this. I'm not using any specialized tools. You could use specialized tools, make your life easier, and go out and buy them, but I'm showing you how to do this with regular tools. So the first thing we're going to do is go and take the top springs apart. So just there's this spring, that spring, and then the emergency brake cable, which is not under tension. You want to make sure that your emergency brake's off. I already stated that, but just double check. And we're going to go take this spring and that spring off right now. So since I'm using regular tools, not the specialized tool, all I'm doing is pushing this part of the spring out, getting a flathead screwdriver underneath, and then prying it off. It might take you a few tries, but you could easily get it done. There's the first one. And so what we'll do is, since we have the picture, I'll just lie it down right onto the picture. So here's our picture. So I'll put the spring exactly where it is on the picture. They're color coded, so you won't get them confused, but just to be extra safe, because everything about this is getting it in the right order. Be careful when you're taking the springs off. They're under high tensile, and they could spring back, so always hold them with the pliers or something. Maybe even wear something on your, like goggles or something. Okay, so what you just saw, I just took off the emergency brake piece. That comes off, the spring comes off, and so we got the springs off on the top. That's excellent. So we got the springs off. Take these out here. Place them down. So everything's off on the top. Now we need to go underneath and take stuff off from under here. So, as I said, I'm just laying it out the way everything was. But now we're going under here, and we're going to go take off these springs, and then we'll be able to unscrew or unfasten this to take the whole pads off. So let's go underneath. So under here it's a lot simpler. The depending on which side you're on, which side your parking brake is on, your parking brake assembly could be on both tires or it could be on only one. In this case, it is on both, and this adjusts. So when you press on the parking brake, this pushes up and moves this dial here. If you can, spin this so that it's completely closed, so then the springs aren't under such tension. They're still going to be on enough tension that you're going to have to pull pretty hard. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to pop this off, take this spring out. And we have this one big spring in the back. Pop that off. We could keep the emergency brake one on right now, and we could take the whole pads off. So I'm going to show you how to take. Now you're going to take the shoes. I call them shoes, call them pads. We're going to take them off by undoing these clips here. There should be, see how this is a spring-loaded clip? There should be one of those there, and one where this bolt is. The last owner put a bolt there, I guess, to hold it in place. I guess that's why the brakes wore down so quick. But now that I'm doing the brake job, I want to do it right. So we're going to replace these. But to get this off, they have a tool for it, or you could just use the pliers. And all you do, get a zoom in here, you could actually feel the pin around the back of the rotor. And you hold the pin down, and you push in with your pliers to compress the spring. So use a needle nose, compress it, and then you want to try to spin this inside pin. Just watch your face here. Okay, this is going to come out. And be careful because this whole brake assembly could come off. So I'm going to take this pin out. Oh, this is the setup. And this is, it looks like a nail almost, but this nail has a flat head. And it only fits in one way. So it'll fit in like that. And then you turn it, and now it won't come out. So when you put pressure on the spring, you want to turn this, and then pull out. Like that. That's how you get that off. And there's one on each side. One here, and one should be right there. So it'll look exactly the same. Just like that. And you want to take these off. Both of those spring retainers out. All you have to do is kind of pull apart. Actually, I'm not blocking it. You just take off one pad at a time. Things are going to fall off. Don't get nervous. we'll figure out how to get back on really easily just by looking at the picture. So then the emergency brake is still attached here, and you can see the spring right here. Okay, so all you have to do is take this spring off. I didn't get this on off before. Glide that down. So for the emergency brake, you just take a pliers. To tell you the truth, it'd probably just be better to bend it back like that and just wiggle it out. Okay, so now here's the emergency brake. So here's an exploded view of everything. You can see our springs on the top. You can see the orientation of these drums. The smaller drum, or the smaller rotor pads. You can see this side actually smaller. It's shorter, not as much surface area. That's towards the front of the car. This retaining clip here, and it would also be on this side here. That's why we have this rebuild kit. You can see in there. This is at the bottom. Spring goes across. Keep an eye on this little stud right here. It comes in the kit with the brake pads or the brake shoes. So we're gonna have to put that in the new one. And the new ones, I mean, you can see how much more meat there are on these new ones compared to the old ones. So let's get cracking. Let's put the new ones back on. One thing I forgot to mention, you need some brake clean. I didn't mention that in the parts that you'll need. And you want to use this stuff a lot. You want it everywhere. It cleans everything out. Get it on everything. It would help if you had a wire brush, and then you just brush away all this stuff. Unfortunately, I left my wire brush in my toolkit, which is not here right now, so I'm just going to use paper towel and maybe a screwdriver or something just to chip away at all this gunk. I've been cleaning away at this using a screwdriver. You should use a wire brush to get all this stuff off. You don't want anything in here because then it'll fall and the drum brake's kind of enclosed, and then your new brakes will get pieces of gunk. I mean, look at all that. That's like hard pieces of brake and metal, and you don't want to ruin your new brakes. So get this nice and as clean as you can, and then we'll start on the assembly. One of the pieces we're gonna have to transfer is this emergency brake holder thing. You can see it slides open like that. So what we do is we take that cotter pin or the C-clamp, C-pin, whatever it's called, and you want to open it up. So a way to get this pin open, because this pin moves pretty freely, so you can't just stick a screwdriver in here and twist. So what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing it with a pliers of some sort, and then I take, so now it doesn't move, and I take my screwdriver and I twist like that. So now it's nice and wide. So now I could probably just pop this off. Just like this. Don't damage this. You want to use it because this is going to be reused. Good. So now this is popped off. This is going to come right off. And you're going to want to clean this off. So let's get the new pads. Here are the old ones. The larger one is towards the back, the smaller one towards the front. And you can see there's also a rounded part and a square part. So this is how our new one's going to be set up. Like this. Be careful with your new pads, you don't want to bang them around too much. And like that. I'm actually going to replace this. Might as well. It's a little bent. It came with the brake rebuild, spring rebuild kit, whatever. So I'm going to replace it. You don't have to. But get a nice new one of those. Right there. And remember, I was talking about this spring and hat setup here. And there's only one. Well, I'm going to replace both of them. You always want to replace everything that's the same. And I'm going to go to the other side and replace them too. So I have nice new ones. We're going to go and put the pieces on that we took off, which are the emergency brake holder, this thing. And that's going to go on the back of this. And we could use our sheet for reference, okay? So you could see right there is that C-clip, which is at the top of this, right there. So we're going to put this facing this direction in here, like that. That's how that goes. And then we're going to take our little clamp here, hold this in, and push the clamp, push that in. Good. So now that's in. Make sure it's in all the way. And then personally, I'm going to crimp this. I'm not going to have to change these brakes for a while. So just close it down. That's not going anywhere. Make sure it spins freely. It's crimped. Okay, that's good. So we have that done. Now we keep looking at what we had here. So remember, there's that spring. So here's the bottom. This is the whole bottom setup. There's that spring holder, which looks like this. I'll get it out. So this spring holder is on. Here's the old pad. You can see it right there. This is the big pad, and you can see it is located right here, just like that. So we're going to want to press that in. So to press this, just put it in the hole. I want to make sure this side's facing, let me show you the right way. So this piece, you can see, has a knobbed spot at the top and a flat spot at the bottom. That flat spot goes in the last hole on the bottom here. Just use your picture for reference in case your brake's different. And I'm going to try to push this in. So just make sure you get this pressed in all the way, just like that, nice and pressed. And so we just added all the pieces that were on the old brake shoes. So now we're going to actually mount them to our assembly here. So I'll show you how to do that. Before we actually mount the drum shoes onto the assembly, we want to get this emergency brake holder on. So how this is going to look is you want it to be like this. And then twist. There we go. Just like that. We're gonna go put our retaining spring, the new one, and pin. So on the back, there's a hole. There's only one hole. And that pin goes through. And you can see the pin just went through. Pin's right there. So the pin's through. You want to make sure that your brake piston is connected here. Well, it just slides on. It's like a fork, and it goes right in. That's easy. And then I'm going to show you how we get this spring on. So take the spring and the hat. There's your spring, there's your hat, and you want to align it. And you get your pliers or your tool. Tool would definitely be a lot easier. And there we go. Now that's locked in place. That's holding this whole thing. And so let's see what it looks like up close. See how that flat part is perpendicular to the narrow part that it slips in? So that's stuck. That's not going anywhere. That's what you want. And I'll show you what the back looks like. So there's where that pin is that you just hold down with your finger as you push that in. So we just did that without the specialized tool. Let's get the other side on. It goes like this. Put this flat so it goes up against here. And we'll take our pin and find the hole in the back. Which is down there. We take this, hold that in place like that. Take our needle nose. Now twist it. You can see, perpendicular. So now the new spring retainers for the drum brakes are on. We can start adding our springs. I say we start at the bottom. So this is our emergency brake adjuster. You can see with the picture up here, looks like that. And what it does is every time you use the emergency brake, it pushes this up and spins it and pushes this out. See how that moves out? Well, we want to make sure this can move all the way out freely, which so far it has, and we want to oil this up so that it does in the future. So that's good, that moves out. So we want to, this is all oiled already, close it down all the way, and that's ready to go. Now we're going to go do this. I guess the first thing we could do is get this piece on here. So again, look at your diagram and see how this is. Next thing we could do is this spring, which you can see right here. Goes across, so it goes on the top hole, which is up there, and the other top hole. So let's put this in. Pliers, and then pull it, and then that's on. So that was easy. We can look back and see that we need to get this assembly on and the spring. So the spring goes on here in this spot right here, like so. And then we're going to take this, and this goes on here and pushes in where the guide is. Like so. So every time you use the emergency brake, this slides up and down and pushes this gear here. This spring that we just put in wraps around and snaps in there. And then there's one last step where this is going to go on here, but we're going to wait for that. So the bottom's pretty much done for the most part. We'll come back to it because we have to add the emergency brake cable. Now we're on to the top, and you can see you got the yellow spring that way, the green spring that way. So let's do that now. Let's start with the parking brake setup, and you can see parking brake setup is the last one, so it's the first one we put on. It wraps around. So actually, before we even do that, we take this thing, because the parking brake, you see how it rests in there? There's like a groove. The parking brake line goes like this. So you're going to just take this and then slide that in there, just like that, and just leave it for now. So we're going to take the parking brake, put that on, run the cable down, and leave that. So now comes the fun part. So I included one of these in the wrenches in the parts list, the tools list I should say, because it's helpful if you do this and you put it on this knob here. So let me zoom in to show you. So you don't actually need to buy that tool, just in case if you don't have it. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the spring on here, and you see this knob here, and I'm putting the end of the wrench. This is a 3/8, and you just slide this down like that. Keep sliding it. Boom. Pops right in. Perfect. So that's all set. So the next one we do, actually, before we do that, I should mention, we should put this back in before it gets too tough because the springs. So this, I said we could leave, but I ended up taking it out because I wanted to take this spring off and clean in here. So you put the spring back on, make sure it sits on these two seats here. It doesn't go past. We're going to look at our diagram, and you see the springs on this side. So it sits like that. Slip this in here. You want to do the spring side first, so you could push in. And good. So that's in like that. So now that that's in, we could get the last spring on top in. So this spring goes here. Again, look at your little diagram. Goes in the first hole, and we're going to take our wrench. A little trick. Okay, now just be careful when you're doing this. Put something over the spring so it doesn't go flying. Beautiful. So it goes green, then a yellow, and then parking brake. Now everything's in on the top. And just, look around on the floor, make sure you don't have any more pieces laid out like the way I showed you they were laid out. And then, so, everything's good. We have that, we have that, we have that. Now we're going to go parking brake down. Make sure it follows that guide in here. So you see this right here? There's a little guide. Good, it's on there. And then, okay, I'm holding it down so you can see the bottom part. According to the picture, that attaches right in there, just like that, on the back side of this. That's how it's set up. Okay? Make sure this is up against here. And then, now I'm going to show you how to get this brake set up. When you're setting up these brakes, for drum brakes, they push outwards. These two pistons here make the brake go that way. And this pushes against the drum, the inside here. See that right there? That is from the piston, and that's not on there right. So I need to take this off now and get that on there right. I just took off the spring. So we're going to slide this back and get this in the proper position, slide it forward. That's better. See, you always want to double check your work, because something like that would be huge. You would lose so much braking power and you could cause so much damage. So now we're going to just put the spring back on. Good. Everything is ready to roll. Take our new drum, put it on, and spin it. There's very little resistance. So then what you do next, you go under here and you turn this upwards like that, so that opens. Okay? So you want this to open, and then we go back. Put that on. It's a little bit too much resistance. Take it off. Loosen this back down a little bit. So I'm going to go in between. There we go. I can feel a little tiny resistance. That's what you want, just a little bit, but not a lot. So that's it. We just changed the rear drum brakes on a Mazda B3000 Ford Ranger 2001. And I mean, this is how a lot of cars are with rear drums. So you're able to follow the same instructions, you know, use the pictures. I mean, everything's pretty simple. It's just where you put springs back. And but using this, you could change your own brakes instead of spending, I don't know, it would probably cost about $300 for new shoes and a new drum on each side. $300 plus that missing piece. You know, I did this for, it was $38 for each of the drums, and then $22 for 2 sets of pads. So that's $100, and I did the whole rear brakes, and they're ready to go for another 100,000 miles. If your car or truck has over 100,000 miles, like way over, maybe 150 or more, you might want to use the spring kit to replace all your springs. But otherwise, we're done. Just get that wheel back on and go for a test drive.